either way. But again, I do appreciate you guys being here. For a minute there, I thought there was going to be nobody here, and then I was going to be preaching on like tithing and coming to church, and just go full Southern Baptist here for just a minute. But we're going to go ahead and start in a word of prayer. Pastor Charles, if you wouldn't mind opening us up.
Father, it's a joy indeed to be able to break bread with our brothers and sisters this evening. Thank you for Nick and pray for him as he shares with us. Father, we see you amidst all of the confusion that goes on around us. And you're the solid rock on which we can stand. Father, we pray for our people that are ill and people that have great needs. Pray, Father, that you would meet those needs. Lord, we pray for the salvation of precious souls. So many, many thousands, millions of people in our nation that are walking on the precipice of eternal hell. And Father, our hearts go out, and we pray that your Spirit might draw them to you. Father, we give you praise and we give you thanks. In Jesus' name, amen.
Well, if you haven't noticed, there's a couple of changes that I've got. One, I've graduated to the big boy podium here. Instead of that little one that every week I end up just, every time I do it, it just ends up sliding further and further down and all that. I do apologize. I usually wear a hat. Well, I wear a hat all the time, but I didn't want to be disrespectful or anything, at least this week, and wear a hat again. But, okay, so as you guys know, my teaching style is a little bit different than others out there. So I like to kind of just get right into it. And what I use a lot of times is my own personal experiences, the things that God is speaking to me about, in my life, in the moment that's there. I've always been that kind of a way, even, in the military when I would train and do all of these things. I feel that the best way for me is just to utilize my experiences and bring it out there. My successes, my failures, all of those kind of things. So with that being said, I've got a little bit different 365 Bible reading plan than what some people may use. But this week, or actually yesterday and today, we were in one of the passages was in Psalm 37 that we were in. And some of you guys may be in this. I might actually be using the same one you're using, but Psalm 37 was where I was today for the second day. And that passage just really jumped out, along with Numbers and Luke and the other places there, of course. But there were some things that I really grabbed out of that. So Psalm 37, again, just jumped out. It's a very, very powerful passage. It's a very comforting passage, but it's also, as with most things in the Word, they can bring great comfort, but there's always some kind of directive there, or something you can find, for me, that at least I see, something you can find in there that God is saying, do this, and this is what happens. Do this, and this is what you won't get or what you will get, that kind of thing, which resonates with me a lot. Psalm 37 being so powerful and being kind of it's kind of, if you look at it, like a practical manual for how to live on there. In the first 8 verses that are in there, there's some really, really beautiful and rich insights into to something that's very important, or should be very important to all of us, something that most people spend their entire lives trying to accomplish or trying to get to, and that's joy. trying to receive or find that joy. And then something that in this day and age that I think is very, very, very necessary, ridding ourselves of some negative thinking habits that we have out there. So we're going to go ahead and start with Psalm 37. I'm just going to read the first 8 verses there. We're going to stop and kind of digest this. I'm learning a little bit from Pastor Alvin how he does these things on this. But we're going to go ahead and start. Now, I utilize the CSB. I think we have the HCSB up there. Other translations could offer a little more insight possibly, or those kind of things. So let me know if there's something, a key thing when we get to some key points, if there's some differences there that really jump out to you from mine. So Psalm 37 verse 1, it says, "Do not be agitated by evildoers, do not envy those who do wrong, for they wither quickly like grass and wilt like tender green plants. Trust in the Lord and do what is good. Dwell in the land and live securely. Take delight in the Lord, and he will give you your heart's desires. Commit your way to the Lord, trust in him, and he will act, making your righteousness shine like the dawn, your justice like the noonday." "Be silent before the Lord and wait expectantly for him," or some translations say trust in the Lord on that. "Be silent before the Lord and wait expectantly for him. Do not be agitated by one who prospers in his way, by the person who carries out evil plans." Verse 8, "Refrain from anger and give up your rage. Do not be agitated. It can only bring harm." There. So I'm going to pull out a couple of things that I found in here. And as I was typing away, those things, I love doing these kind of things because sometimes I get to typing and then more and more and more comes out. And like the very first time I spoke here, I had like 15 pages. I kept it down a little bit, okay? So we only have about 2 hours worth of material here, okay? On that. I'm just kidding. Or am I? Okay. So this song gives us a lot of do not commands on here, okay? Behaviors that we got to change or that we must leave behind to find God's blessings and peace. For instance, do not worry or be envious, verse 1, or, in my do not be agitated by evildoers and do not envy those who do wrong. Let each day find you grateful for what God has given you. Do not be angry or a vindictive individual, for instance, in verse 8. And forgive as you've been forgiven. There's a lot of things in here that are do not commands and all that, but there's a lot of positive commands here that could spur us to some positive actions on that. Let's take a look at a couple of these, and we're going to break down some of this. So verse 1, it says, "Trust in the Lord." Through here, meaning whatever is bothering you, trust God to be able to handle it better than you can. That's what I get out of it. That's verse 3. I'm sorry. Verse 3, trust in the Lord and do what is good. Very clear and concise stuff. Now, that speaks to me. That's the kind of stuff that I like. It's just clear and concise through there. Trust in the Lord, do what is good. There. Verse 3 again, do good. One of the things I wrote down here, I wrote that life is about choices. It really is. Our life is just made up of choices. Ultimately, the most important choice is, are you going to accept him? Are you going to have a relationship with him? Are you going to let that, are you going to choose to live righteously? We're going to talk about that here in just a minute through that. But know that God will honor those choices that you make when you're following him. Here's an example. Again, going back to what I spoke about earlier when I said I like to use a lot of my life experiences and things that have happened. Choices being one of the main things that our lives are made up of. Back, I think it was 2019. For those of you that don't know what I actually do for a living, I'm not never mind. I was going to insert a funny joke there, but I'm not going to do it. Anyway, I worked for a foundation and basement waterproofing repair company, that Owen and Tessa own, and so it's our family's business. But my job in there is I'm a system design specialist. But what I really am, I'm the sales manager there. So I go in, I meet with customers, I inspect the issues that they're having, and go through a process, and then show them how we can help them. And ultimately, I'm the guy that can sell that, our products to them to be able to fix that through there. So I had an experience back in 2019 where I went down to Midland. And I met this nice gentleman that was a general contractor down there, and he was representing a homeowner and his wife, the two homeowners there. And that's not always strange. Some people hire general contractors to do a large project at their home, and the general contractor gets a hold of us because they run into an issue that requires some foundation work or something like that, and we meet them. So I inspected this house, and it was a great appointment, good Christian people and all that. The GC, one of the few, just seemed like a very godly man. And I don't meet a lot of people like that all the time. But inspected the house, everything was, they needed some work, and so the general contractor was very adamant when I got done with the inspection that I send everything to him. Now that's a very common thing for those of you that don't that are not privy to that kind of thing. And sometimes, not all the time, but sometimes, they want to take that bid that I give them and they mark it up a little bit, and then they tell the homeowner it's not right, it's not honest. They tell the homeowner, well, such and such company said they would charge X amount of money to do this, but they got a little markup on this as well. I don't have any control over that. I got to do, the homeowner is designated the GC to be the point of contact, so that's what I do. So I sent them the proposal, and then I didn't hear anything for a while, and that's not that uncommon. But I just did a little follow-up, I don't know, 3 or 4 months later. And just to, I was driving by, and I just happened to drive by the house. And I thought, I might give them a call and see if they actually got those issues fixed, because they were pretty significant. And I called the homeowner, and they said, no, you guys already came out here and fixed it. And I said, no, we didn't. Oh, no, I'm sure you did. And I said, no, I'm sure we didn't. I'm sure we didn't fix the house. So I said, you know what, no worries. I'll just call the general contractor. I'll find out what's going on. Maybe, in my head I was thinking maybe they were mistaken and it was the electrician that came in and that's who they thought I was. I don't know. So I called him up and he said, hey, yeah, so they decided not to do any work. And I said, okay, hey, that's fine. If they don't want to go ahead with the foundation issue, it's their money and it's their house, that's fine. And I put that on the back shelf. I filed that away because a good salesman doesn't let those things just sit on, a monkey on his back, just keep going. So a couple of months later, I noticed this name pop up, on my calendar and everything, and I went, there was another house, and the point of contact was the same general contractor. So I called him and said, hey, I'm, gonna be here. I'll be there in about 30 minutes like I normally do, and got there. I'm sorry, Miss Brenda, I'm going in a lot of detail. And the reason I'm telling you this is to kind of set the scene for the choices out there. Let's keep that in mind. So I show up and the general contractor's wife is there, which is very odd. He said, my wife will be who you'll be meeting today. So I get there and she says, hey, look, this house is vacant to the best of our knowledge, but we're looking to buy this house and flip it, and we want you to do a foundation inspection. That house in particular was dilapidated. It was not habitable. It was just in a bad situation. I wouldn't have recommended anybody ever purchasing it. You spend less money on a bulldozer than it would to fix it. And so I did my part of my inspection, and then found that to be the case. And so I was just discussing this, and she said, I just need, and I told her this, and she just said, I just need you to send me a bid. Tell me how much it's going to cost to fix it. And I said, you don't understand. It's going to take probably about $100,000 to fix this house. It's not even worth a couple $1,000s. It's just too much, and way too much. And that's not right of us to do that. And she said, I need a price. And I said, why do you need a price so badly? And she said, because we're going to do the same thing that we did the last time. And I said, what do you mean? What'd you guys do the last time? And she said, well, the last time you inspected so-and-so's house, we take it, you and my husband are not on the same page with this. He told me that you were good with this. And I said, I don't know what you're talking about. And she explained, I want you to give me a bid of a price, and we will do the work and pay you a little bit of a commission or whatever you want to call it, to kind of put your name on it and say that we did this. And I said, no, I'm not going to do that. That's I'm not sure if the legalities of that, but I know it strays way into the fraud range and way out there. And I said, no, I'm not going to do that. And she said, she got very angry. And she said, listen, we're just trying to make a good living. We got an RV we have to buy. And I said, okay, well, I don't really care about your RV that you have to buy. I have to go to sleep at night, and I have a family I'm trying to lead in the right direction. I'm not giving you a price to fix this house if you're just going to turn around. And I said, I had a choice. I was getting a little bit angry. And I said, you did this with another customer, and so on and so forth. And so, no, I'm not going to do it. And I made it all the way back that day. Drove 4 hours, and then, I get back home, and the husband calls me. And then he explains. He said, look, Nick, I want you to send me a price. And what we need to set up a partnership. If you feed me, or if I feed you addresses, 5 to 10 a month, I'll pay you $1,500 per proposal. You just slap together and send me the proposal. I'll do the work, and we'll both make really good money. And I said, no, that's not happening. And he said, look, I've got an RV to buy. And I said, yeah, I knew your wife told me you got an RV to buy. And he said, I'm retiring as the pastor of such and such church here in Midland, and I need to buy this RV, and so we can go and do some work and travel and all that kind of stuff. But I need you to just send me these bids. And of course, I would hope you would know what my answer was to that. I said, no, I'm not going to do that. For a split second, that little, it popped up there, hey, 1,500 times 5 or 10, But the choice that I had was do the right thing, do what God has told me to do, what He's led us in our business to do, or make some money. And there's not enough money in this world that can absolve that kind of stuff. There, obviously, I told him no, wasn't going to do it, and then told him I was let him know a little bit of what I was thinking there about how disappointed I was in him and that kind of thing. But that choice was there nonetheless. The choice: do the right thing, and don't make any money on this project or the multiple projects that I'd inspected for him, or do the wrong thing and potentially supplement our income massively on that. That is the choice that I had. And in that moment, a lot of people would think, and I know you guys have faced many of the same situations, probably a lot more in depth than me. But in that moment, I had that choice to make. Was that choice to do that. I also had the choice, do I get really angry? Do I go back to the old drill sergeant Moore days on that? And Crystal can always tell when I'm emotional when I'm on the phone, because I'll start just standing there or sitting there, and then I'll end up pacing all over the place. And I was running laps around that room, my bedroom that day. But I had that choice right then. be angry, or don't. Be dishonest or don't, through that. And I guess, not to make this too juvenile, but we all have those kind of choices there. And that's what Psalm 37 is telling us. That was a very long story to tell you that. I could have just said, hey, do the right thing. That's the choices we have there. But, and I like that story because it kind of, those choices can give you strength in times. I think back to those times when I met and you would not believe how many shady people are out there. But when I meet other people in from my position working with them as an expert on what we do, and they know there's nothing else but the partnerships that can be created, but making a clear choice to do what's right. Now, that's not a plug for our business. I'm just telling you. That's a personal thing. I guess you guys get the point there. So, verse 4 in here. Verse 4 says, "Take delight in the Lord, and He will give you your heart's desires." When I was young, I saw this verse many times. Okay, and the way I was taught was, "Hey, give the Lord a little bit, and He'll just give you everything you want," and all that. And I don't think that's what He's saying right here. I don't think that's what David's saying here when he's talking about this. First off, we don't ever get the first part right on there. That's a lifelong journey, I believe, to get to the point of that. Now, again, if you do the first part right, those desires are not going to be what our desires are now or what they could be. Taking delight in the Lord means to fall in love with Yeshua. And when I say fall in love with Him, I mean it. He needs to be something that's all-consuming. Our heart, like David says, pants after Him. When we take delight in the Lord, when those words don't do that a lot of justice right there, and I'm not saying in a bad way. I'm just saying taking delight in Him is much more than just being happy that you have Him, or coming to church on Wednesday, getting a little bit of a shot in the arm, or on Saturdays. Taking delight in Him, in Yeshua, means putting every fiber of yourself in there. That's a learning process. Learning to sit with Him, to act with Him. That's the part that a lot of us get wrong. I'm talking to me. I'm me. So every time I say us, I mean me. Okay. A lot of times I get wrong. Learn to not just sit with Him and learn from Him, but learn to act with Him. Learn to see the things that He sees. Learn to incorporate as if when people look at us, it's just like Him, seeing Him. That's a very important part that I miss a lot of times through that. When that happens, that's when our desires are no longer the Nick Moore desires of, right now, today, whatever today is, February 10th, 2021. That's not the desires I have now. That's the desires to see things the way He sees it, to do the things that He wants done in the way He wants them done through that. It's a huge part of this. It's not as simple as, obviously you guys get the point, it's not as simple as saying, yeah, I love God, and because I love God, I'm going to get everything I want. The desires of my heart will change when I absolutely incorporate Him into everything I do. When He and I become so close that you can't tell a difference. And that's a lifelong thing. I think that's a lifelong journey to be on, to constantly get there. And when you stumble, coming back into that part there. And this is what's so profound about what David writes throughout the whole, throughout the Psalms that he has authored, is this thing. Now, the Bible tells us that David was a man after God's own heart. I believe that David saw it. He got it. He had the key, and he unlocked it. He took genuine delight in his God. He took that so much so that he didn't care about anything. He did the things that God wanted him to do. He was so in tune. I see this as an example. when the prophets would speak to David and things, I like to imagine if I was like a fly on the wall when that was happening. What was his reaction? When Nathan walked in, did he just go, "Whoa, are you?" I wish I could see. I would assume it would have been an amazing reaction. Probably his favorite person on the planet, to see that one person that could actually go and talk. God actually talked to him face to face, kind of thing. Anyway, so delighting ourselves in the Lord, that's a huge thing. I don't want us to miss that or gloss over it. Along with that, in verse 5, committing our way to the Lord. Let me pull this back up. So commit your way to the Lord, trust in Him, and He will act. Can that be any more comforting? Through delighting ourselves in the Lord, or through becoming one with Yahweh, that's just powerful right there. Trusting in Him, and He will act. Now, is He going to act the way I want Him to act now, or or whatever? I don't know. I could tell you it's going to be whatever He does. God is orderly and decent. Everything's done decently in order with God, and everything follows a plan. We talked about what that plan is. From the foundation of the world, that plan ultimately was to bring people to Him. Everything has linked up that way. It's not about what festival that's a very important part, but that's not, God didn't create this planet for us to have Feast of Tabernacles, right? He had a plan for what that was supposed to symbolize. A symbolic. What word am I looking for? Yes, symbolize. I'm sorry. Blah. Okay. Anyway, commit your way to the Lord, and He will act. That in everything, trust God in all you do, every day, all your life, and He's able to handle it best. That's just something that I pulled out of there. Verse 7, be silent before the Lord and wait expectantly for Him. Do not be agitated by one who prospers in his way, by the person who carries out evil plans. That's a lot to unpack right there. Verse 7, you could live your whole life in verse 7 right there. Have a calm assurance that He is in control of every aspect in our lives all around us. Now, when I say that, I mean it a lot deeper in that. When I say He's in control, everything that we see, everything that goes on around us is He's in absolute control of that. Now, we had, for some of us, and you guys know, I've told you this before, from November until a few weeks, a month ago or whatever, my world was shaken because I didn't give that control to God. I tried to wrestle that away from Him. I wasn't doing a lot of right here in Psalm 37, becoming one with Him, seeing the things He saw through that. And I definitely wasn't being calm and being still in that. Now, being still doesn't mean being inactive in this. It means being at perfect peace with the plan He has. Now, also keeping your eyes on the objective. In the Army, I loved this saying because when you're young in the Army, you don't understand this, and it was so confusing. But then when the light bulb hits, it's awesome when you realize this stuff. We had a saying that slow is smooth, smooth is fast is how the saying went. Okay, and that was usually when we were talking about when we were shooting and stuff, and when we were doing some advanced rifle stuff. We didn't raise our weapon up and pop off 2 rounds as quickly as we could. When we came under fire, when I was in combat and stuff in Iraq, that's when it really hits that it's not who fires the fastest that wins. It's who's the most effective that wins. on the battlefield. The same thing applies to our Christian lives, to our lives as we follow Yeshua, those things. Moving with him, now, not moving slow but smooth, and smooth is fast through that. When we are calm enough to be at peace, to be willing to do what he says to do, to follow his plan, and then we step out on faith to do that plan, that's when all the pieces come together, and that's when we're effective. Getting out ahead of that is what some people make the mistake of. But I believe that the majority of us make the mistake of seeing that, be silent or be still before the Lord. We see that, and that's where we live our lives. In the be still part, what we think that means, sitting back kind of part. Now again, I don't want to be too rough because I'm talking to me too on this. It's a very important part right here. David sees this in Psalm 37. Verse 8 and 9, this is amazing, because this will tell you right here, this is something I struggled with mightily. November, whatever, I can't remember. I have memory issues, so I'm sorry. But after Election Day, the day after Election Day, or the few weeks after that, I struggled with this mightily on here. Refrain from anger and give up your rage. Do not be agitated. It can only bring harm. I don't think there's any deeper way to say that. I mean, that's just pretty cut and dry as it is. Stay away from that anger bug, because it bites, and it bites hard on that. And it does nothing towards what God wants us to accomplish on that kind of thing. Are there times to be righteously indignant with things? Yes. The Bible lays out the criteria to be righteously angry. However, being angry in this sense, refraining from it's amazing, this word that's used here, rage. Refrain from anger and give up your rage. That's a very strong word. Rage, that's a whole nother level there. Now, I felt that in the last few months. A lot of rage, a lot of anger towards where our country's going, towards the things that are happening all around us, to the unfairness of everything, to where it just seems it's just so unfair in some of these kind of things. That was a very hard pill to swallow on that. That's an all too relevant principle that we have. We can fall into that trap of anger all too often on that. Obviously, right here it says it can only bring harm. It's clear. It brings harm. Does it bring harm to us? If it doesn't directly bring harm to me, I know what it does to, my relationship with God, first off. The first thing that goes when I'm angry, I don't feel like praying. I don't feel like ministering to people. My relationship with God is just pumped on the brakes. And then I have to go all the way back, right? You have to go all the way back to being one with Him again, because we give into that anger there. It brings harm to us, to our relationships. The evildoers, or the ones that practice lawlessness, that's another way to put it, they'll be brought to justice. That will be doled out. Some of those people is crazy, because just today, I was praying about this a little this morning. I prayed about it a lot this afternoon for some things that are going on. And one of the things that was, I read something that put me in a little bit of a kind of thing on the news. And I voiced my opinion to somebody, and they said, "Hey, look, they're getting their reward." You know, what you see, it's a biblical principle, first off, what this person was telling me. But they're getting a reward right here. Our reward, we play the long game. That's what we have to do through that. That's going to be administered to them, that stuff. And that's not for us to do. As much as I want to punish people for things, how they've slighted me from time to time. As much as I want to do those things, that's not what I'm told to do. I'm told to do the exact opposite of that in many cases. Right there, okay? Conversely, if you choose to act and think out of that hope that's in Yahweh, that's when you're rewarded for those things. It's an amazing thing. Now, I'm going to skip a little ahead here because this is where that was all the introduction, okay? No, I'm just kidding. Verses 12 through 15 was another key thing that I saw here. And I would recommend, if you haven't read this passage, take it and digest it through there. Verse 12 says, the wicked person schemes against the righteous and gnashes his teeth at him. 13, the Lord laughs at him because he sees that his day is coming. That's talking about the wicked person. The Lord laughs at him. The wicked have drawn the sword and strung the bow to bring down the poor and needy and to slaughter those whose way is upright. Verse 15, their swords will enter their own hearts and their bows will be broken. You just have to read a little bit further in this passage to see that anger that we're talking about in verses 8 and 9, it doesn't really do much good to be angry on this. Verses 12 through 15 tells us what God's going to do. That stuff's going to backfire on them. Those things are going to come back on them. Now we pray ultimately, we don't pray for their destruction. We shouldn't. We don't pray for even their punishment. That plan that we talked about a few weeks ago when we talked about God's perfect plan through all of this, is that they come to know Him on that. And then those things, how much more of a testimony, how much more mighty can that testimony be, to be in the depths of all of that and then come to the Lord and start living the right way. I didn't have a lot of that in my life, to be quite honest, as far as the control of anger. That was a big deal for me, and it was further compounded, by multiple deployments to Iraq, and then being in the Army and the lifestyle. I was just used to my way, what I wanted. And especially as I started, getting promoted and things, I could point and people did things. So I had a lot of anger, I took that out on a lot of people in my life. There's all these excuses I could have about the way I was raised, and some anger with those things. The unfairness of all of these things. And then it hit me, and it was only just a short time ago that it hit me that entire time, that anger that I had, because it was just so unfair, or this or that or the other, didn't hurt. It didn't hurt the people I wanted it to hurt. It hurt me and all that. We know that. We know we've heard that adage many, many times. But rest assured, verses 12 through 15, if you needed any of that their plans are going to come back to them. When it's amazing how David sees this kind of stuff. Okay, the key thing, we're going to skip down to verses 25 through 29. Okay, 25 through 29. This right here is something that I have many, many times I've claimed. Many, many times I've seen it through this. I'm going to key in on what the real reward is for practicing peace, living righteously, and following His commands on that. Verses 25 through 29, it really spoke to me on the unbelievable, because this is out of this world, the unbelievable promise that we have if we practice righteousness and all that. But what does that mean? What does righteousness mean? Being in, of course, we know that means. It means being in a right standing with God. And how we get to that righteousness, we've talked about at length for the last couple of weeks at least. Pastor has talked a couple of weeks on this thing, or that's what I've been gathering out of this on that. Verse 25, it says, I have been young, and now I am old, yet I have not seen the righteous abandoned or his children begging for bread. He is always generous, always lending, and his children are a blessing. Turn away from evil, do what is good, and settle permanently. For the Lord loves justice and will not abandon his faithful ones. They are kept safe forever, but the children of the wicked will be destroyed. The righteous will inherit the land and dwell in it permanently. I can't tell you how many times when life got hard for me, that verse was there for me. There was a time in our young marriage, and many times after we'd been married for a few years, that Crystal and I were in some pretty tight positions financially. And when I say pretty tight, I know you guys understand those things. Choosing what bills we're going to pay, which one we're okay with taking a ding on for, being a month late, just so we could put some food on the table. Those things out there that cause those situations are a lot. Well, for us, it was a severe immaturity with financial, not being financially mature, not running things the way we should, and then the situation God had us in. I always, for a short time there, I kind of wore it as a badge of honor, but I left a very, very, very well-paying job, especially coming straight out of the Army where I didn't make anything, and people shot at me, and now I was not getting shot at, and I made a lot of money. That was awesome. But that was in the oil field, and in 2015, that crashed, and I saw the writing on the wall, and I was assured 100 gazillion times I was not going to get laid off. They laid off my boss and kept me, and I was like, what in the world am I doing? And there was only two of us that were, doing this specific job, and, they showed me a lot of faith that they weren't ever going to lay me off, but my pay started going down a little bit, and I was just restless, and I left that, and I went to work changing oil in tractors and putting lawnmower blades on things. And for a great couple that was in our church, they were amazing people. And I accidentally sold a tractor one time. I literally, when I say accidentally, I accidentally sold a tractor. Customer showed up, and I was outside, and I think I was putting a shredder together or something. This was not my job whatsoever to sell anything. And they showed up, and he said, tell me about this tractor, young man. And I looked up, and he was a tall cowboy, tall farmer with a cowboy hat on. And I said, well, I just started telling him about the tractor that he was looking at. And he said, is this a good one? And I said, yes, sir. And he said, okay, come on with me. I'm going to buy it. And I said, okay, I don't know how to do this. And he wrote a check for it, and I sold a tractor, and then I got into sales on that. That was my boss looked at me and said, I wonder if this could be what you do. And then I found that's what I like to do. Mainly, I like if you can't tell, I like the talking part of it. I like meeting people. I like talking to people. As many of you guys know, as you've had to sit through hours of me talking to you through that. But I have a microphone now, so. Anyway, I went way off on a rabbit trail on that one. In that time, I took a little bit of a pay cut. Not much to do that job, especially once I started selling things. Now, I never got commission for anything I sold, and then I didn't even know what that stuff was until I left the company, and they were like, hey, you never asked for commission. What? Anyway, but we were doing okay. And then just through pure, only God could do it. I ended up, very long story short, I'm not going to give you all the details and talk about that because I'll keep you here forever on that. I ended up in the ministry. Well, going to school and then in the ministry. And along with that came like it was like a 60% pay cut. It was a lot. It was so much so that, I thought everything's going to be great. This is the most awesome thing in the world. I'll be at church 7 days a week kind of thing. And then, and then we looked and we said, wait, I can't even buy groceries on this paycheck, let alone take care of my family, on that kind of stuff. In that moment, that's when I ran into this the first time. Staying faithful with God, He doesn't abandon you. How could He abandon somebody Himself? That's what came out to me. He doesn't abandon us in those moments. But that, again, going back up, further up in the passage, delighting ourselves in Him or being one with Him, that's where it comes from. That peace, that happiness. For some of you, I shared the story. I'm not going to share it. You can ask me later, and I'll tell you of an instance that's 100% a miracle of God. How He did not abandon me, and what we would think of when we read this verse in verse 25, when we read that David's saying He's never seen the righteous abandoned or his children begging for bread. How literally, I was at that point. And I was so angry at God. Now, this is prior to the ministry, but I was at that point so angry with God that I literally just said, if you are who you say you are, then you're going to fix this somehow. And that's, I challenged Him in a way I should not have challenged Him. I challenged it because He made a fool out of me, because He did it when I was for sure He wouldn't. Anyway, that verse was very special to me there. And then it tells us in verse 26, something that I never, ever put two and two together. Verse 26, it says, He is always generous, always lending, and His children are a blessing. That's not talking about God right there. That's talking about that righteous person. These are the qualities of that righteous person in verse 25. These are the little landmarks that you can see, or the little things you can place on that righteous person in verse 25. It's huge. Am I always generous? Am I always lending? And are my children a blessing? That last part seems very easy. But if you got kids, sometimes they ain't a blessing. Sometimes they don't feel like a blessing on that. Do I view them as that? Do I do everything that I can to make sure my children, my grandchildren, the kids that are around me, do I make sure that they know these same principles so that they can be a blessing on this? But am I acting that way? All right? When the meat and potatoes of that is when God's taking care of you because you're with Him 100%, you're meshed with Him, you're following the plan and His goal that He has, not for your life specifically, but I hope you are specifically following the one He has for your life, but the overarching plan, working towards that with Him and bringing others to Him. He doesn't abandon you, and these are some qualities that you have there in verse 26 there. This thing keeps closing out on me. 27, turn away from evil, do what is good, and settle permanently. 28, for the Lord loves justice and will not abandon His faithful ones. They are kept safe forever, but the children... Let's just stop right there. For the Lord loves justice and will not abandon His faithful ones. Right there. How many times do I sit there and say, hey, God, what are you doing in my life? This person doesn't like me, or this person, has let me down. And I just feel so alone. I've said it dozens and dozens of times in my life. What I see in this is, how many times does God have to tell us He's not going to abandon us on this? Now, I'll put this in a bigger sense here. This gives me great comfort for where we are right now in this country. I don't like a lot of things going on. I'll just be 100% honest with you. They make me sick. They lead me down a path where I could be angry. They trouble me. And to a degree, it can encapsulate, it just fully can encompass every thought that I have on these things. I start thinking in ways I shouldn't think, and those kind of things, and on this. But ultimately, when I'm doing that, what I'm doing is I'm abandoning ship right there on that. I think this is a message that we all need to really grab on, if that makes sense. We all really need to grab onto this right here. And I don't care who it is when I say all of us. That plan that God has for us doesn't stop because of who is president or vice president, or whether we like them or whether we don't. That plan didn't stop in 2016, or 2020. That plan keeps going. David told us this thousands of years ago. What the qualities of God are, what our qualities should be in here. When we emulate exactly how God acts towards us, we're taken care of not only physically, we're taken care of in every other aspect of our lives. I looked at this my whole life as physically. It makes more sense physically there. But as I grow older, I learned that this means not only just physically, it means mentally and emotionally and spiritually. If I'm one with God, then those things, His words become the words that I need to be speaking. His thoughts become the way I think. I heard this song, and this was an amazing thing. Amazing. Absolutely. Oh, man, it jumped off of here. Okay, here it is. On the way here, when I was driving here with Kira, just listening to the radio, this song came on, and it was exactly where I wanted to end this stuff tonight, right here. I'm going to read the lyrics. It's called Give Me Your Eyes. It's by an artist named Brandon Heath. Many of you guys have heard this song. As soon as it played, you guys would know exactly what song I'm talking about. But I wanted to read the lyrics here in the vein of verse 4, 37:4, where it talks about delighting ourselves in the Lord. When we become one with Him, we act the way He wants. It says, give me your eyes for just 1 second. Give me your eyes so I can see everything that I keep missing. Give me your love for humanity. Give me your arms for the brokenhearted, the ones that are far beyond my reach. Give me your heart for the ones forgotten. Give me your eyes so I can see. I think that's a great way, great prayer, a great request, that we see the things the way God sees these things. God works in and out of time. I'm talking not only just all the way down on a micro level here, but looking way up at a macro level at all of this, that God works in and out of time and space. I want to see the things that He wants me to see. And I want to be the way He wants me to be. I want to act the way He wants me to act. I want to talk the way He wants me to talk. I want those things there. And when I want those things there, He tells us, I think, this is so awesome. This is so awesome. Like, throughout his entire word. You do this, and he gives us this, right? You do this, and he tells us, he opens up the windows and he pours them out and he shakes everything up and he keeps pressing. If I have the eyes that he wants me to have, I have the heart that he wants me to have, and I do the things he wants me to do, I actually get out and I do the things he wants me to do, he rewards those things. He rewards our families. He breaks generational things. There are those curses that we say, generational curses, in our families and in our lives. Those things can be broken by being one with him. So that's a little bit of what I saw there on that. And I hope that could be your prayer. I hope that can be your attitude. Because if it's yours, you're going to help me on this thing. You're going to keep me accountable to these things. But I think this passage is the most ideal passage we could have had, at least I see this week. And I hope tomorrow's, I know tomorrow's is going to be the same. It's going to be, so applicable to everything that we have there. But anyway, I do appreciate your time in this. I hope that those things that I was able to pull out there can help you a little bit on that. The way I would like to do this for just the next few minutes, to kind of put a little bit of a reset button for us, is I would like to take just a few minutes in your groups, at your tables, or wherever, or whoever you want to be with. And let's just spend some time in prayer to kind of get our hearts where we need to be. Pray for our country, okay? Let's start from the worldview. And then let's come back down to our country. And let's come to our state, and down to us. And everybody there, our elected leaders, our appointed leaders, our local authorities, and then the people that we work in and amongst and around, and us. Bring it from the top to the bottom to the top, and let's just pray. And let's try to ourselves reset where we are, so that tomorrow morning, Thursday morning always comes. That's one thing I've learned. It's great. This stuff is great. I love this. I love our church. I love my family. But tomorrow comes, if the Lord wills it. If the Lord lets us see it, it shows up tomorrow. And, I, for one, need to be a lot more effective with what I do from Wednesday night to Thursday night. And then from Thursday to Friday, and so on and so forth, on that kind of thing. So let's just spend some time there, just a few minutes. When you're done praying, I guess we're done. No official thing, unless anybody has anything there. Does anybody have any announcements or anything that way? I haven't. What's up? Okay, and what's his name? His name is Aaron. Okay, so Aaron, for those, and I'm saying this mainly, I know most of us heard it, but for the live stream, so they can actually hear it over this, but we're going to pray for Aaron. He fell and his back is swollen and he's hurt, so we're going to pray for his physical health there. Yes, ma'am.
I just have a praise. I know a lot of y'all have prayed for my mom, and 6 months ago she had a recurrence of her cancer, and they said they couldn't operate, and really the only option was chemotherapy that they knew didn't work and would make her really, really sick. And so she did some radiation, and today we went for the results, and they're going to try to do surgery on March the 4th.
And don't make me cry. That's amazing. That's progress. That's part of that, and not being abandoned. I love that. All right. Well, Paul, do you have anything?
Well, I do, but I'm gonna throttle myself for that.
I asked Paul before the service started. I said, "Hey, if you got a question, you know, take it easy on me. Take it easy on me." Obviously, it's because he is very, very wise in these things, and I'm only saying these things in jest because I love Paul and I love your knowledge on those kind of things, and I want that on there, and maybe one day I'll have have a little bit of that. But okay, we'll go ahead and we'll just break up into our little groups. We'll pray, and when you're done, we're done.